Tii Item 406, September 15th, 2016, iOS 10.0.1, and another brick in the wall.
Welcome to Today in iPhone.
I like it a lot.
Today in iPhone.
Hey, Golem!
Oh yeah!
My beautiful iPhone, which I never have out of my hand and that I do everything with and has become an extension of who I am.
This episode is sponsored by Boll & Branch. Go right now to bollandbranch.com and use promo code TII to get $50 off the nicest sheets and cotton products you have ever owned. Welcome to the show. I'm your host, Rob, and this is Today in iOS podcast. First up, I want to thank Rick for sending in the music here in the background. Rick wrote, "Hey Rob, love the show, both as an educator and as a scholar whose work has examined the intersection of rhetorical and disability studies. I deeply appreciate the attention you give to issues of accessibility. Your deft handling of complex topics is admirable, characterized as it is by informed, respectful commentary that avoids the well-meaning but gratingly insulting condensation that is so often plagued the discussions of others. Bravo, I say. I have included a short musical piece, hopefully not too short, for consideration as a possible episode intro-outro selection. My wife left me and I had the summer off, so in my sorrow, I turned to the iPad Pro for solace. I'm not a musician per se, but I do love learning new things. The piece, called The Struggle of Hope, was composed, performed, recorded, and mixed entirely on a 12.9-inch iPad Pro using Garageband, DrumKick, and the wonderfully powerful GeoShred. Additionally, musical selections along with an assortment of animated shorts and blog musing focusing on Apple-related topics and mental health can be found at my newly established blog located at regardless.website. So www.regardless.website. Regards, Rick from Valdosta, Georgia. Well, thanks, Rick, for the music. And folks, I will put the full song at the end of the episode. I also want to thank Matthew for sending in the artwork for today's show. Matthew wrote the following. Hey Rob, I made this picture on my iPhone 5S with these apps: Photoshop Mix, Photoshop Fix, and Aviary. I used Apple's special event invite from 2015 for the background, and I edited an iPhone 6 to remove the headphone jack and replaced it with the speakers. Thanks for the show. Regards, Matthew from Canada. In the artwork, he made the iPhone 6 look just like the iPhone 7. But here's what's really special about his artwork. He sent it in on February 15th. Nailed it! Good job, Matthew. And of course, thanks for sending in this artwork. And folks, you can see Matthew's artwork in the free Tii app via the bonus button for episode 406 or at instagram.com/todayinios, and also as a standalone post in the VIP section and at facebook.com/todayinios. If you have some artwork and or music that you have created on your iOS device that you would like to share with the audience, please email it to me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please make sure to include which app or apps you use to create said artwork and or music. And I'm down again to about 2 songs in my queue, so if you have some music created on an iOS device, please send it in. In this segment of How Wrong Were They, we have the following quote, "The Lumia 900 and its successors will help Microsoft to reclaim the number 2 ranking, replacing iOS in smartphone operating system market share in 2015, unquote. Wayne Lamb, IHS analyst, 19th of January, 2012. Not even close. Depending on which survey you believe, in 2015, iOS market share was somewhere between 12 and 18% globally, with Microsoft coming in around 0.5 to 1.5% globally. No matter how you look at it, it was not even close. Of course, Apple did account for about 91% of the profit for smartphones, and is that not more important than the number of units market share? Just saying. For promo codes, on episode 405, we offered up chances to win promo codes for the apps Franken Girl and Silk ASMR. If you are interested in winning a promo code for one of these apps or want more info, go back and listen to the beginning of episode 405. Sorry, no new promo codes this week. Which leads us to a quick reminder, if you are an app dev or an iBook author, email me if you want your app or iBook featured on the promo giveaway segment for free. We just need the 5 promo codes or more to give away. Simply email me at todayinios@gmail.com, and please include a 60-second or less audio review of your app or iBook indicating you are the dev or author. Also, when you send in the promo codes, please make sure to let me know when they expire. Now, switching to news. I usually don't cover court cases. They kind of get boring. But this one's kind of interesting. Seems Amazon is suing Samsung in Washington State Court, accusing them of trademark violations. According to Jeff Bezos, from the court transcript, quote, Samsung's recall notice multiple times mentions fire when describing their smartphone, and that is a clear violation of our trademark for the Amazon Fire. We ask that Samsung only use words like explosion, thermal runaway, or incendiary event when describing their smartphones in their recall notices going forward. Heck, we would even be okay with them using the word flammable. We are not unreasonable here, unquote. All right, some Apple stuff now. Each major update, and even minor ones, I say, hold off updating. Don't be the first. And each time I typically get emails that fall either into the category of, wow, this is taking longer to download than I expected bucket, or the smug bucket where people say, ha, I did not listen and all went well. This year for iOS 10, or really iOS 10.0.1, when it launched, I received a few messages that had a different tone or message. And they went like this, help! Or this message from Rob Usden, who said, quote, first time I've had trouble with an iOS update. Backed up to iTunes before I left the house, iPhone SE, went to work, downloaded update on my phone over Wi-Fi, told it to update, went to meeting, come back, pick up the phone, turn it on, and it shows recovery mode. Just got home, plugged it into iTunes, says it's in recovery mode, says it will update to 9.3.5 to try and fix, and it is downloading right now. It was on 9.3.5 before the attempted iOS 10 update, unquote. And there were others with that same, oh no, my phone is bricked message, but not really bricked, but temporarily bricked. And I sent out a push message on the Tii app to users saying, don't upgrade. It does look like Apple fixed the issue within about an hour of it appearing, and it seems to be an issue with those doing an over-the-air update. But still, I cannot stress this enough. Just don't update right away. Stay at iOS 9.3.5 for a bit. Wait until iOS 10 Goldmaster or iOS 10.0.1 is really vetted and updated, say 10.1. Now, don't get me wrong. There were still many of the smug, I did not listen and all went well emails. But this time there were a bunch more message in the, oh crap, I am bricked category. And then, that's a lot more than I've seen in a while. Now, to fix the bricked iPhone, you need to connect to iTunes on your computer, which, you did go into and sync and back up your iPhone before you tried to upgrade it, right? And Apple did actually issue a statement saying they fixed the issue. From Apple, quote, we experienced a brief issue with the software update process affecting a small number of users during the first hour of availability. The problem was quickly resolved, and we apologize to those customers. Anyone who was affected should connect to iTunes to complete the update or contact AppleCare for help. And next time, you should listen to Rob at Today in iOS and not be so eager to update, unquote. Okay, maybe I added that last part.
Hi, Rob. This is Karen from Seattle. I have a few things to tell you. I love your show, by the way. I was one of the first ones that updated yesterday, and I did have that issue, but I didn't panic. I just connected it to a computer, and everything was fixed. Of course, we didn't listen to you, and we had the issue. People were saying that their phones were bricked, but really, doesn't that mean that it's completely unable to be repaired? And that wasn't what happened. By the way, I'm very happy with iOS 10 because what I wanted forever is to be able to select all and deselect the emails I want to keep and then throw the rest away in one action. And this app, Alto, A-L-T-O, finally accomplishes that. I'm very happy, and I wanted to share it with all your listeners. I know you must be super busy with everything since everything's happening for your show. Have a great day, and keep up the good work, and thanks. Bye.
Karen, thanks for the feedback and the heads up on Alto. In my mind, the absolute best reason to update to iOS 10, at least from my time playing with the betas this summer, was Swift Playgrounds. And Apple has added it to the App Store for free. Previously, it was integrated into the beta releases of iOS 10, and there was no need to download it on its own. But now, again, you have to go to the iTunes App Store and download the Swift Playgrounds app for free. It does, of course, require iOS 10 to run and an iPad. Sorry, not for iPhones, just iPads, and just those running iOS 10 or 10.0.1. From Craig Frederici, Apple's Senior Vice President of Software Engineering, quote, everyone should have the opportunity to learn coding, and we are excited to bring Swift playgrounds to the next generation of programmers, looking for a fun and easy way to explore key coding concepts using real code. More than 100 schools around the world have already committed to adding Swift playgrounds to their fall curriculum, and we can't wait to see what students create with it, unquote. Which makes me wonder, what are the rest of the schools waiting for? That 100, that's a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage. Wow. Again, to me, Swift Playgrounds is the best addition from iOS 10. Yes, I say not to update to the new versions of iOS. Actually, if we stick with last year's mantra, I would say wait until 10.1 before updating. By then, at least most, if not all of your favorite apps will have been updated. But I do not expect all or even most to listen to my warning. Actually, I rely on many not, so that they can send in feedback of their experiences for those that do wait. Here is some other feedback about iOS 10 updates from those listeners that, well, did not listen to me. Hi, Rob. Got iOS 10 up and running for 4 iPads and 2 iPhones. Not many problems, except all the apps are asking for permission that they already had for years, and I'm signing in again and again for most of them. As for watchOS 3, there are so many changes, it boggles my mind. Glances are gone, watch faces work in a different way, the friends selector is gone, the animated emojis are gone, the exercise apps are all work in different ways and unpredictable ways. But why should I complain when a black and white classic Mickey can now say it's 8:03 with a mere tap on its face? And I can get confetti with messages, even though it's impossible to see behind the messages themselves. Best always for all you do. Regards, Jeff in Burbank. Hi, Rob. A couple of things. Firstly, the update to iOS 10 didn't resolve my issue whereby callers struggle to hear me when I'm speaking through a Bluetooth headset, which appeared first in iOS 9.3.5. Now I'd like to use iMessage, but without using my Apple ID, i.e. just using the phone number. Can this be done, and are there any disadvantages? Regards, Alf, Sheffield, UK. To which I will throw Alf's question out to the audience. What can you and can't you do with iMessage with regards to non-Apple IDs? If you know, give us a call, 206-666-6364. That's 206-MOONDOG, or shoot an email to todayandios@gmail.com. Back to the email bag. Hi, Rob. iOS 10 loaded on my 4th gen iPad without a problem. There was a lengthy delay that I waited out, but it finished just fine. Regards, Tom. Hey, Rob. Updated iOS 10 on the iPhone 6 at around 11:59 a.m. I have not had any problems at all. Regards, Sharday. Hi, Rob. I installed iOS 10.0.1 on my iPhone 6S from iTunes, and everything is well so far. No problems. Regards, Fabio E. And there were many, many, many more of the I have not had an issue, or if they did, fix the issue and are working fine now with iOS 10.0.1. I will get into some of the new features, changes later in the episode and in future episodes, but I will leave with this. If iOS 9.3.5 is working fine for you and you don't have an Apple Watch and are not looking at developing an app, and generally just like it when everything and every app just works, then stay at 9.3.5 for now and wait for a couple of updates to iOS 10 before updating. But I'm not the only one saying this. App devs are saying it too. Beth Labas sent me an email from the developer of the app Simple, spelled S-I-M-P-L, of course. And they said, quote, Apple releases iOS 10 today. As always, with major releases of iOS, our advice is to, quote, wait to update, unquote. We recommend users wait 1 or 2 months before downloading the newest version of iOS. Why do we always say this? 1, waiting 1 or 2 months provides a better all-around experience for you. iOS 9 is already very stable, whereas iOS 10 is not quite as stable as it is so new. 2, waiting 1 or 2 months gives time for Apple to squash bugs in iOS. Remember, it's a major release. And 3, waiting 1 or 2 months gives Simple and your other app developers time to optimize their apps for iOS 10, unquote. Okay, and with that said, later in this episode and future episodes, we will get into some of the new features of iOS 10, Or you could go back to episodes 396 and 397, where I did a really detailed run-through of what changed and moved around in the Settings app. Into the email bag. Hi, Rob. Wow. Even though I knew the headphone jack was to disappear in the iPhone 7, I still found myself surprised. Surprised by the idiotic way Phil stood up there and justified it. Courage? I think perhaps someone at Apple needs to look that word up in the dictionary, as Phil perverted its meaning, unless he means the courage to stand up before millions and sound like an idiot. Of course, he's in marketing, so that's par for the course. Why such hostility on my part? Well, Apple just removed a port that many people use and many would still have a use for in the future. It is not like the floppy drive or the optical disk drive, which were clearly losing their relevance. Plus, those items were not used by many users constantly. Plus, I strongly suspect that those iPhone owners who never used the headphone jack barely noticed its existence. So did we gain something in return? Not that I can discern. The phone is no thinner and waterproofing is not relevant, as the headphone jack is easy to waterproof. Now, what about those of us who use the headphone jack constantly? Apple throws in an adapter, which in itself gives the lie to what they say about the irrelevance of the jack. However, this adapter does not allow for charging, so you can do one or the other, but not both simultaneously. So Apple moved a useful function from inside the phone to outside, where it can get lost, damaged, and you lose the ability to charge the phone. This is a design fetishism run amok. Notice Apple didn't have the courage to include wireless charging. So will the headphone jack disappear from the iPad line plus the Macs as well? After all, the only port the MacBook has besides a single USB port is a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Okay, end of rant for now. Keep up the great work. Regards, Kevin Barry. Hi, Kevin. I agree. When Phil said it was about courage, jaw dropped, hit floor, chipped tooth. Then I remembered he was a marketing guy. As I mentioned on the last episode, you got to take it for what it's worth. That said, there are some comments from Steve Jobs here with regards to courage, and let's hear what he has to say when it comes to that subject.
Sometimes you just have to pick the things that look like they're going to be the right horses to ride going forward. And
what if people say, you know, the iPad is crippled in this respect?
Well, I'd say two things. Number one, things are packages of emphasis. Some things are emphasized in a product, some things are not done as well in a product, some things are chosen not to be done at all in a product. And so different people make different choices. And if the market tells us we're making the wrong choices, we listen to the market. We're just people running this company. We're trying to make great products for people. And so we have at least the courage of our convictions to say, we don't think this is part of what makes a great product. We're going to leave it out. Some people are going to not like that. They're going to call us names. It's not going to be in certain companies' vested interests that we do that, but we're going to take the heat because we want to make the best product in the world for customers. And we're going to instead focus our energy on these technologies, which we think are in their ascendancy and we think are going to be the right technologies for customers. And you know what? They're paying us to make those choices. That's what a lot of customers pay us to do, is to try to make the best products we can. And if we succeed, they'll buy them. And if we don't, they won't. And it'll all work itself out.
Kevin, somehow I have a feeling that Phil Schiller watched that video right before he went on stage. I mentioned last year about PIDS, P-I-D-S. That stands for Post-iPhone Delivery Syndrome. And soon some of you will be suffering from PIDS. And by suffering, I mean your significant other is letting you know that they need some attention and are feeling a little jealous of your new shiny Apple device. Folks, we have a sponsor that can help defeat PIDS, and that is Boll & Branch. How does Boll & Branch help you defeat PIDS? By allowing you to buy luxury sheets at an affordable price in a package your significant other will love and feel appreciated when you gift it to them. Like I said a year ago, do something to let them know you still care, and this is that something. The sheets from Boll & Branch are made from 100% organic cotton, not because organic cotton is a buzzword, but because organic cotton is incredibly soft, and the sheets get softer each time you wash them. We've had ours for over a year now, and they are incredibly soft and really, really nice. That's right. You'll get the nicest sheets you've ever owned for about half the price of what stores and boutiques would charge for sheets of far lower quality. I really could not believe how excited my wife was to get these new sheets. And the box that came in, and the individual pouches for the sheets and pillowcases, well, the presentation was incredible. Very Apple-esque. Get $50 off your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com using promo code TII. Again, that's bowlandbranch.com. Use promo code TII. These sheets are only sold online at bowlandbranch.com. You can't buy them in any stores. That is how they keep the pricing low and free of markups. But here's the best part. Don't take my word for it. Try them out for yourself. 30 days, risk-free. Boll & Branch is so sure you're going to fall in love with their sheets that they give you 30 nights to try them out. If you don't love them for any reason, they will take them back and refund you without any hassle at all. They also have towels, and the ones I purchased for my wife are by far the best towels in the house. Plus, they have other cotton products. Get $50 off your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com and use promo code TII. Go to bowlandbranch.com today for $50 off your first set of sheets. That's BOLL and branch.com, promo code TII. Every new release of Apple hardware, Apple gives out test evaluation units to their pets. I mean some select and respected tech journalists. And each time they have to sit on their reviews until a few days before it hits the stores. And then I like to look at a bunch of those and cut to the chase and read the last few sentences or paragraph of the reviews. After all, that's where they keep the good part, right? At the end. First up is a review from Nilay Patel from The Verge. To the end of his review, quote, "But unless you're eager to and ready to live the early adopter life, you won't actually be missing out on much if you don't get the iPhone 7. This is an iPhone that lays a marker in the tech history, and it will serve as a foundation for many important changes on how phones work and integrate into our lives. We're going to remember the iPhone 7. It's going to be the next iPhones that actually build a useful future on that foundation," unquote. From Brian Chen with the New York Times. Well, congrats getting over there, Brian. Quote, "Sooner or later, consumers will probably look back at the iPhone's puberty phase and accept that changes had to be made for the smartphone to mature. I, for one, am looking forward to a future with fewer wires," unquote. From Mike Werthel at Apple Insider, quote, "Regardless of the slightly older chip manufacturing process still in use for the A10 Fusion, the chip brings both power and battery life to the line and is another reason why pre-release criticism of the iPhone 7 not being innovative were mistaken," unquote. From Chris Velasco with Engadget, quote, "If you can get over the all too familiar design and the no headphone jack thing, then the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are serious contenders for best smartphone, period. Note, I use the word best, not most innovative. Neither of these devices is groundbreaking. We've seen many of these features or features like them pop up in rival phones already. That headphone jack thing aside, most of the choices made in the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus feel like safe ones. There's nothing wrong with that, but no matter how good the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus are, answer very, very good, Apple already has us all wondering what next year's iPhone is going to be like," unquote. From David Pierce at Wired.com, quote, "So no, the iPhone 7 won't blow your mind with its design or features. It's still a fantastic phone. And philosophically, it feels like Apple is throwing open a door. The iPhone 7 might not be a revolution, but it might be the catalyst for lots of them. Your phone will be better in a few months, and even better a few months after that, and won't that be exciting," unquote. From Steve Kovac at Business Insider, quote, "As for the iPhone 7, it's the best phone you can buy. I don't recommend upgrading if you have an iPhone 6S, but there are enough improvements here to make it worthwhile upgrading for about everyone else," unquote. From Nicole Wynn at BuzzFeed, quote, "If you're a loyal iOS user and due for an upgrade, it's a no-brainer. Get this iPhone. If you are perfectly happy with your current device, wait for it to break, preferably on its way to the bottom of a pool, and then get one. With Google's new Nexus or Silver Surfer phones around the corner, wait a month or so to switch, maybe hold off on that Samsung for a while," unquote. From Andrew Cunningham at Ars Technica, quote, "If you understand things best when they're phrased as tired idioms, the missing headphone jack is a fly in the iPhone 7's ointment. Plenty of people will be happy to scoop out the fly and use the rest of the probably fine ointment. It's good ointment. There's just a fly in it, and the transition from wired to wireless is going to be more painful now than it will be a year or two down the line when more accessories and devices have adapted to follow Apple's lead. Waterproofing and better battery life have been common iPhone feature requests for years, and the camera and speed improvements are nothing to sneeze at, but you'll need to buy into Apple's vision of the future if you want to get them, unquote. From a couple of the old-timers. From Walt Mossberg with Recode, quote, "But despite the undisputed improvements, this new iPhone just isn't as compelling an upgrade as many of its predecessors. Some might want to wait a year for the next really big thing, and maybe a better audio solution to boot," unquote. From Ed Baig at USA Today, quote, "Whether a water-resistant phone coupled with an excellent camera will drive you to the store remains to be seen. This is a strong handset for sure, but if you can hold out, there's already talk that the truly dramatic leap forward for the iPhone comes next year when the seminal smartphone celebrates its 10th anniversary," unquote. From Scott Stein at CNET, quote, "The iPhone feels like it's laying the groundwork for a more sealed-off, improved wireless system. In the meantime, it's a little bit boring. I'm okay with that if it's reliable. This year's upgrade isn't something you need to have, but its improvements are likely doing some subtle paving of the way towards changes in another iPhone next year. If you care about better photos and want to be a little more future-proofed from whatever Apple has in store for that dual camera, seriously think about getting the 7 Plus, unquote." And finally, Anik Jezdanum, AP Tech writer, quote, "The new iPhones now have stereo speakers and play audio twice as loud as before. I could do the dishes with the faucet running and still hear my music without putting on the headphones. The screens are also brighter, which could help in direct sunlight. Apple says better battery life improves by an hour or two thanks to higher capacity and efficiencies. No battery is ever going to be enough, but Apple promises 12 to 15 hours of internet use. If you do upgrade, consider the new Jet Black model. The black is polished so finely that it looks like glass, yet has the strength of aluminum. It smudges easily, but of course you ought to have a case anyway," unquote. And there were actually more than those 12. Do you remember the days back in the time when the original iPhones came out, when it was just 3 or 4 people that received a new iPhone to test, and that was it? Well, those days are over. Apple has definitely ramped up the PR machine this year. As near as I could tell, there was at least 20 English language reporters that received an iPhone early to review. Actually, there is one more review I want to play. Here's the audio from Stephen Colbert.
"We believe the iPhone 7 is the most exciting iPhone yet. You've heard the rumors, and yes, they are true. We have removed the headphone jack." Thank you. "We also got rid of the home button." Now, some companies might stop there, but we thought if less is more, how much more could we less? We think you'll be very excited about all the things we didn't include. For instance, that fragile glass front, gone. And with no front, do you really need it back? Also, the iPhone 7 never needs to be charged because there is no battery. Introducing the iPhone 7. Quite simply, a solid chunk of metal. So, how do you get all the great iPhone features you've come to rely on? Well, tonight, we're proud to introduce iFriend. Hello, Gabe.
Hello.
Instant verbal response. Say, Gabe, what time is it?
10:15.
Gabe, I might go for a walk later. How's the weather?
It's pretty nice out.
I know what you're asking. How will I play my music? Well, it's this simple. I still have my old headphones right here. Gabe, can I borrow your iPhone 6?
Sure.
The iPhone 7! The next thing we're asking you to buy!
So, if one lens is good, then 2 must be twice as good, right? Well, there are articles out there that get into how good two lenses can be, but rather than go into it from some of those articles, I thought I would play this next segment that was sent in from Sharkey James from the PetaPixel podcast. Here we go.
Hey, Rob. Sharkey James from the PetaPixel Photography Podcast here. Thanks for having me on again, brother. I really appreciate the opportunity to give you a little bit of insight on the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. You know, when these phones were announced, my world, the photography world, was divided. You've got the camera snobs who'll never be happy with anything other than their traditional DSLR on one side. And on the other side, people who appreciate just how far the camera modules in the iPhone actually have come. The other day, the New Yorker had an article whose headline said, quote, "With the iPhone 7, Apple changed the camera industry forever," end quote. And it's so true. Until now, as with most smartphones, the iPhone has had just two cameras in it, the outward-facing one and the one on the screen side. As great as the new camera module is in the iPhone 7, the two cameras in the iPhone 7 Plus are what's really, really cool. Now, instead of zooming digitally, which just stretches your pixels and isn't ideal at all, hitting that 2x button at the bottom of the screen actually switches which camera is being used. So you're optically zooming by way of using a different camera. The standard 28mm camera then switches to the 56mm camera. Now, if you grew up in the film days, those numbers make a lot of sense to you. The 28mm is the wide angle, and the other is pretty close to a human's field of view. It's not really telephoto. Apple's referring to it as telephoto, and I guess compared to the wide angle 28mm lens, it's more of a normal field of view of what humans see. You know, eventually, though, I think the iPhone is actually going to have the ability to physically zoom by way of moving the glass elements inside that camera module to achieve a true high-quality optical zoom. Digital zoom is no bueno. If you can avoid it, you definitely want to do it. It just blows up pixels. It's not as good as an optical zoom. You would much rather zoom by way of moving the glass elements than blowing up pixels. So having the two cameras in the iPhone 7 Plus is quite significant. What's really cool is that both of these iPhones have optical image stabilization in it. So it actually moves the elements to counteract your shaky hands and help reduce the chances of you having blurry photos. Apple also improved the flash system, which is awesome, but if you can get away with not using the flash, you'll have better photos, of course. And they've improved the color rendering, so human skin tones and everything is going to look punchier and a lot nicer. An incredibly helpful thing that Apple has done in both phones is improve the light gathering ability of the cameras inside with that f1.8 aperture they've included. If you have traditional cameras, you know that an f1.8 lens allows in a lot more light than an f4 lens, for example. We don't always shoot in great lighting conditions, so being able to get a shot in low light is amazing. Now, what's coming to the iPhone 7 Plus is the ability to have that nicer, professional-looking background blur. It's a Japanese word called bokeh, which a lot of people say as bokeh, but it's bokeh. Trust me on this. And since smartphones have tiny sensors in them and physics being what it is, you can't get that background bokeh unless you do a whole lot of math, and that's what they're working on here. So that's why in a future iOS update, which is due out by the end of this year, according to Apple, iPhone 7 Plus users only are going to be able to throw that background out of focus, and they're going to be able to see that effect live on their screen, which is amazing. This is what we call computational photography. The cameras aren't doing this, it's the processor inside that's doing it. And because it works so incredibly fast, this is now going to be possible. Thanks to the incredibly smart people over at Apple and a whole lot of math, they're going to be using those two lenses to determine how far away your subject is from other objects and create better depth. And that's how they're going to be able to throw the background out of focus. And it is going to be really, really cool. Now, if you're a photo nerd like me, Apple finally allowing us to shoot and process DNG RAW files rather than work on low-quality JPEGs is going to be massive. You're not going to want to shoot all your photos in that format because your iPhone is going to fill up fast, but it's nice to have that option available to you. And using Snapseed version 2.9, which is out now, and other apps which are coming, you'll be able to recover blown highlights and pull out detail and shadows way more easily than you can now. You know, Rob, the point-and-shoot camera market was already basically dead. I mean, how many of us actually carry a physical camera on us anymore? We don't do it. And with the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, they are basically dancing on that market's grave now. RIP point and shoots, it was good knowing you. It's nice to have one device and not two on me. The camera systems in the new iPhones represent a huge leap forward in mobile photography. No doubt about it. I think there's always going to be a place for actual real cameras. I mean, when you're shooting sports, etc., you're not going to ever do that with a smartphone. You're just not. For most people, it's the camera that we always have on us, the camera that you're likely to use to capture important moments in your life, such as your baby's first steps, birthdays, holidays, etc. And I'd be remiss right now if I didn't remind people that unless you're backing up those photos in the cloud or syncing them to a computer, you're just one stolen, misplaced, or damaged phone away from losing all of life's precious memories that you've captured with it. So heed my warning, people, and ensure that all the images that you shoot with these great smartphones are properly preserved. They're really important, I think. I mean, you're taking them for a reason, right? I hope you learned something from this deeper dive into the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus's camera systems. If your audience, Rob, would like to learn more about taking great photos, no matter what kind of camera they're using, even if it's with smartphones, either head on over to petapixel.com/podcast or search for PetaPixel in your favorite podcatcher. And that's spelled PetaPixel, by the way. Check us out and come hear why Spotify handpicked us to be the very first photography podcast out of the hundreds out there on their service. Thank you so much for having me, Rob. I greatly appreciate it, brother.
Thanks again, Sharkey James, for your thoughts about the new cameras in the iPhone, especially the iPhone 7 Plus. And I will have a link to the PetaPixel podcast in the show notes for episode 406. Please check out Sharkey James' podcast. And here's some audio feedback from Tosin in the UK.
Hi Rob, this is Tosin from Redditch UK. Just phoning in to give my thoughts on the special yesterday and also my picks for our orders tomorrow. I especially like the 7S on account of two things. 3 gigabytes of RAM, I understand, is going to be what's in this 7S. And, the camera is also a compelling new addition to the features. So I guess that would also be the second thing. But mainly it's the speed bump. I imagine that it should be able to handle other processes apart from just the camera functions. Overall, I loved the whole of the keynote, and I look forward to possibly ordering second generation Apple Watch as well at some point. But for now, I'll stick with the Apple iPhone 7 Plus. Anyway, thanks for all the good work. Keep it up. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for your feedback on the 7 Plus. Into the email bag we go. Hi, Rob. How many years might they include the mini jack to lightning adapter? Any surprises despite all them leaks? I like stereo sound and was hoping for a blue color despite using a case. Which had more, 6 to 6S or 6S to 7, ignoring the outside-in looks? I'm sure with more time we'll find out more improvements Apple didn't discuss, such as supposed improved laser sensor for the ear proximity sensor, etc. Regards, Michael. Well, Michael, thanks for the email, and per your questions, I would be surprised to see the dongle on the next iPhone. Most likely, these are the only two iPhones, the 7 and the 7 Plus, that will come with the mini jack adapter. No real surprises. As I said on last show, we had more bingo card hits this time than we've ever had in any past bingo event by a good margin. And per which device had the biggest upgrade versus the previous model? Hint, it's not the iPhone 7 or 7 Plus. Actually, if you have the Tii app, go to the bonus content for today's episode and look for the bonus PDF. In there, you will see a chart where I track all the changes for each iPhone all the way back to the iPhone 4. And for each new item, I give it a score, a 1, a 2, a 3, or a 0. And so, for example, in the iPhone 4, when I said Verizon got added, I gave it that a 0. But when I said it went to the A4 processor, I gave it a 3. And up to 512 meg of RAM, it got a 2. And HD 720p video recording got a 2 compared to where it was versus the 3GS. So if you look at the aggregate scores, when you add them up for the different devices over the years, the iPhone 4 was a plus 30, the iPhone 4S was a plus 29, the 5 was a plus 25, the 5S was a plus 30, The 6 and 6 Plus, really the 6 Plus, is a plus 24, and the 6S Plus and 6S plus 33. That was the best. The 6S, 6S Plus, that was the best of all of them ever. 5S was second best when you look where it was compared to the previous generation. The 7 Plus, a score of plus 24. So one of the worst updates tied with the 6 Plus. What was new in this year? Well, there was the A10 processor, 2.2 gigahertz. I gave that a 2 score, a plus 2. 3 gig of RAM, 7 Plus model obviously only, and that's a plus 2. I got zeros for the video recording and the video out support because it was stated 4K. Battery life, I gave it a 1. It goes to 15 hours of Wi-Fi internet. I almost put it at a 0 because talk time went from 24 to 21 hours, but that's only if you're Bluetooth. So if you were to put in the wired headphones, it'd probably be the same. Dual cameras on the 7 Plus, that's a plus 3. Front 7 megapixel camera, plus 2. The quad LED flash, a plus 1. The 10x digital zoom, it was, and again, this is a 7 Plus. It was 5x, now to 10, that's a plus 2. 6x digital zoom for video camera from a 3x, that goes a plus 2. Front facing camera can now record video at 1080p, that's a plus 1. Water resistant, plus 3, without a doubt. Stereo speakers, plus 2. 256 gig of max storage, a plus 2. The jet black and black colors, we give that a 1. Faster LTE, I give that a 1. No headphone jack. First time ever I've given a negative score, minus 3. Sorry, it's got to be a minus 3 on that one. It's really, really hard for me to justify going from a 6S Plus to the 7 Plus. If you're going from a 6S to a 7 Plus, maybe can recommend that. But if you're going from a 6 Plus to a 7 Plus, absolutely can recommend that. That's what I'm doing myself. And of course, if you are anything 6 Plus or earlier, yeah, going up to the 7 Plus will make sense. One generation jump, not so much. Again, the difference between the 6S, 6S Plus and the 7 Plus is a plus 24. That's the lowest we've ever seen in a generational jump. But combine the 24 to the 33, and now you've got a nice 57, and that's a good jump from previous generations. Add another 24 to that if you're in the 5S, and another 30 if you're on the 5. So the further back you go, the greater the jump. If you want to see all the new features you'll be getting, depending on which phone you have, all the way back to the 4, again, in the Tii app, go to the bonus content for episode 406, and you'll see the PDF. It's the only place you're going to find it. And you'll be able to go ahead and get that and see across multiple generations all the new features you will have received by going up to the latest generation phones. As I've said before, my scoring is arbitrary, but it is mine, and I try to be consistent year over year, and I go back and look and say, hey, if it increased this much of megapixels on the camera or this much on the processor, then it gets a 1 or a 2 or a 3, and I try to be consistent year over year. So I think the scoring is rather consistent, and you can take the numbers as an indication of how big an update is. I've always said the S updates are the best updates. The first generation, what we're seeing right now, is not as big. So going from an S to the next generation, it's never really something I can justify. I mean, unless you have the upgrade every year plan. Other than that, if you bought the phone outright, you probably want to wait till next year to get the next one if you bought it outright last year. But 2 years ago, absolutely, timed upgrade. Back to the email bag. Hi, Rob. I won't be upgrading to the iPhone 7 this year, not because it's not compelling enough. Jet black and double the space, darn, that's good. But because I still love my iPhone 6S, it's a terrific device and still many years of usability and good performance. But the temptation will endure a whole year until I finally crumble to the 7S. Thanks for a great show. Regards, Fabio E. Fabio, thanks for the feedback. And like I said, it's hard to justify one generational change in the iPhones, especially this year. I have an Indiegogo project that the developers of contacted me about. It's called Plug. It is a 48,000 milliamp hour battery pack. This is a serious battery pack, and it even has AC outlets, 2 AC outlets, up to 250 watt capacity. Yes, enough to charge 2 MacBook Pros. It has 2 fast USB chargers, and it has a USB-C port. As they say, you can charge 28 iPhones, 2 laptops, and countless other devices. This just launched and already has 130K raised, which is well above their 30K goal. Congrats, folks. Pricing on this is $199 for the early bird, or $349 for the plug plus a solar panel for those that want to live off the grid. It has Tesla battery cells, so none of those exploding Samsung battery cells. The size of this is 8.6 inches by 5.6 inches by 1.6 inch, so not very big. If you camp or do lots of road trips, this may be the device you're looking for. There is about a month left to order this, but there are only 650 early bird units left, and pricing goes up to $209 on September 18th, then $229 on October 1st, and then $329 when it goes retail. Actually, there is $649 left, as this is one I'm actually a backer on. If you look through the backers, you will see Today in iOS listed. I don't back many of the projects I mention on the show, but when I do, I was starting to sound like a beer commercial. Anyway, this one just seemed too good to pass on when I think of all the times I need power, and now I can do that for any of my devices, USB, USB-C, or plain outlet. Search for the plug at indiegogo.com. So that's plug, P-L-U-G, spelled the right way, at indiegogo.com, or in the show notes for episode 406. And I am looking forward to getting this one.
Hey, Rob. This is Justin from Pennsylvania. I'm calling to give my feedback about the Apple event. I have to say, I still really want a headphone jack, but it seems like, everything's in the box for it. They made an argument for it. I don't know that I 100% agree with it, but I hope that it's not a monetary thing and it is actually better. I guess we'll only know over time using these devices. And the AirPods I thought looked really interesting. I think I might pick up a pair, even though they are a little pricey, but they seem really, really slick. So I'm looking into probably picking those up. And I thought the 5 hours life for a small earbud like that is really good. They never really said how long it would take to charge in the case, because they said there's 24-hour battery life. I'd like to know how much that is, like how long you'd be out of commission with those once you plug them in to the case, getting the charge. But hey, I guess I'm assuming it'll be probably pretty fast, considering probably be like 20 minutes or something. I would hope. I don't know. I guess we'll find out once more people get their hands on them and there's reviews on them. Other than that, I love that magic they do with the trackpad. Now they brought it to the home button. I can't imagine it'll freak your mind out when you realize it's not a real button. But I like that stuff. Finally, water resistant. Hey, it's really cool. And like the whole thing about how they like waterproof the watch is really amazing. Like using the speaker to shoot the water out of the watch to make it more waterproof. That stuff's just cool. I don't know how else to say it, but anyway, Apple's products, there's always a point of view to them. Sometimes I disagree with some of their choices, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's a deal breaker. I'm certainly not switching over a headphone jack, especially when there's going to be one in the box. So we'll just hopefully the dongle won't be flimsy and get lost too easily. But other than that, I love the whole thing, and I can't wait. My wife's probably going to upgrade, and I'll get a chance to see the new version of the phone, and then I'll have to adjust to not having a headphone jack next year. But other than that, it seems like a really great product, and I'm excited to try out those earphones. So, all right, thank you guys so much. I love the show, and I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about the event later on. Thanks. Bye.
Hey, Rob. This is Justin from Pennsylvania. I wanted to give a quick little thing about ordering online. I actually use the Apple Store app, as usually I have, and because it usually goes up sooner than the website. I actually had a huge problem with it this year. For the first time, it wouldn't let me change. I actually needed to change the payment method, so I would have to say, and then it froze and wouldn't let me check out with any of the cards I had on file with my account. So then I had to end up going to the website and doing it there instead. It took me an extra half hour to order, which meant my phone got pushed 3 weeks after that. If it still hasn't shipped by this Friday, I think I might try and go get one in the store and cancel the order. But yeah, so for the first time ever, the Apple Store app prevented me from being able to pre-order. And I put in my card ahead of time, like you said, but then I actually wanted to switch my payment method, and for some reason it was stuck on whatever card I used 2 years ago. So I don't know what the deal was, to be honest with you. It was just really strange because I tried to set it up in advance, but it just wouldn't let me use what I'd put in earlier that day. So I don't know. It was really messed up. It was the first time I ever didn't make it in on time and with my pre-orders and stuff. So I'm kind of a little disappointed, but you know, I guess in a couple of weeks I'll have it. It's no big deal, but just figured I'd let you guys know that app was a bust. So thanks, guys. Hope everyone else got their pre-orders in okay. I just figured I would tell everyone about mine. Thanks. Bye.
Justin, thanks for the feedback. Into the email bag. Hey, Rob. How did you do getting your 7 Plus? I got in about 12 a.m. Pacific time and had to settle for a 2 to 3 week delivery estimate. Regards, James M. Well, I made what I would call a bonehead mistake. A couple of them. My ordering process, it all went like this. Starting at 11:55 a.m. Pacific time, maybe a little bit sooner, I would refresh the App Store app, then refresh apple.com, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat, and repeat. And then around 12 o'clock a.m. Pacific time, it said I needed to update the App Store app. I'm like, oh, should have checked beforehand. So bonehead mistake number 1. Finally, around 12:10 a.m. Pacific time, 12:09 a.m. Pacific time, the App Store app came alive, and I went to order my jet black 256 gig iPhone 7 Plus. And when I saw the lead time flash up as 7 to 10 days, I went right past that, and then I paused. And I was like, wait, what did I just read? 7 to 10 days? And I went back to confirm what it said. Bonehead mistake 2. Where I then said to myself, gee, I wonder what the other colors have for lead time. Is it a 7 Plus issue, or is it a color issue with the jet black? And then bonehead mistake 3. I went and checked and took screenshots. Then I came back and it said lead times 1 to 2 weeks. And I went back to double check it. Well, I guess that's bonehead mistake 4. And then it said 2 to 3 weeks. And I smacked myself, pushed myself through. So if I had not been a bonehead, I would have had it in 7 to 10 days. Instead, I wound up with 2 to 3 weeks and a delivery at the home date range of October 4th to the 10th. It was like my mind just went blank for a bit, and I forgot all about the hundreds of thousands of others that were trying to order at the same exact time. Oh. So yes, this Friday I'll be checking around, and Saturday and Sunday I'll be checking around to see if I can find me an iPhone 7 Plus Jet Black 256 gig for T-Mobile. But most likely I won't, because I think that one is going to be the one that's hard to get this year, and I'm going to have to just stick with my online order. But if I do find one before it ships, I will cancel my online order and pick it up locally. I also want to say a big thank you to Amiko. She sent in the following message with her PayPal donation to the show. It said, quote, "Another new iPhone season reminds me of how much I enjoy your show and the community. I am upgrading my phone this year and will be looking forward to hearing discussions around it. As everyone says, keep up the great job," unquote. Thanks again, Amiko, for donating and contributing to the show. Folks, if you would like to donate to the show, just go to todayinios.com and in the lower right, look for the donate button. Hello, Rob. A quick note on my thoughts regarding the Apple event today. New bells and whistles with the latest iPhone and watch aside, the thing that most interested and pleased me is that even though Apple didn't actually drop pricing, they effectively did by doubling storage capacity on the phones and maintaining the same pricing structure. I guess you can say that they've been doing this already by previously dumping the 32 gig models on the phones and tablets because those are going to get a 16 gig model when you can. Who's going to get a 16 gig model when you can get the 64 gig model for $100 or more? But with the bump up in storage, prices are much more palatable. I'm blind, and this is still contemplating whether to get the SE. Checking the Apple Store, the 64 gig iPhone is now at $450 since all the fancy visual stuff doesn't interest me. But even then, scoring a 6 Plus at $650 or the 7 at $750 with all the storage is also an appealing option. In my case, I've got around $180 in redeemable Best Buy certificates, so I'll wait to see if there's any further deals towards the end of the year. You have to love saturation. AirPods, I'm going to need more than 5 hours of playtime on a charge before I pay $160. Sounds like a second or third generation buy, at least until they can boost playtime without a charge. Thanks, Chris. Chris, thanks for the feedback, but to defend Apple a little bit, the AirPods, 5 hours of charge time in that small a device is actually really incredibly good. So Apple's time of playback on that really is good. And the $160 price, when you compare it to other things that are out there on the market, the $160 price is actually a really good price. You'll find other similar things out there. We even talked about a Kickstarter project once on the show that are much higher prices. You know, we're talking $199 to $300 for similar devices out there. So Apple's price $160 for the AirPods is a good price.
Hey Rob, this is Hansel from Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Watched the Apple event yesterday. Really liked it. Yeah, it's a little long. The first thing my sister asked was whether there are going to be any new iPads. No new iPads mentioned this time. Maybe with the new MacBooks that'll come out. Anyway, I love the Apple Watch, but I have the first one, and I was wondering, since they're making they're going to make the first one with a dual, and I wonder if you can trade your watch in and get them to add the dual, the new processor in there. That would be awesome. The titanium, wow, titanium, ceramic was $1,200, $1,300, and no more gold. So I guess those other ones will be collector's edition now. 18 hours on the, they said the same battery time for the Apple Watch though, 18 hours. So that's actually, it's actually pretty good. So you're going to get the GPS and all the other new functions that go there and 18 hours. So looking, maybe I have to do that for Christmas. That may be a new thing, and then hand me down my watch to my daughter or something if I can't get that upgrade on there. The new iPhones, I think I'm going to wait, but like happened with the 6, I broke my screen on my 6S, and I had to decide, am I going to get the new phone or get the screen fixed? I'll go into Apple and see what they'll charge me for that. But I really think I would like the Plus. I don't too much care for the big size, but God, do I want that the zoom function that's on the new phones, the Plus. That's all I got. Love your show. Thank you for all you do, Rob. Have a good day from Florida.
Thank you very much for your feedback. Folks, if you'd like to give us some feedback, give us a call, 206-666-6364. That's 206-Moondog, or shoot an email to todayinios@gmail.com. Mentioned earlier, I was going to go over some of the new iOS 10 features changes, and I'm going to do this very, very quickly, just to remind you what they are, and just some this time and more each of the following episodes. First up, I want to go over accessibility. Magnifier now uses the camera on your iPhone and iPad like a digital magnifying glass for real-life objects. There's a new range of display color filters to support different forms of color blindness or other vision challenges. VoiceOver adds a pronunciation editor to customize the way words are pronounced, additional voices, and support for multiple audio sources. There's additional text highlighting options in Speak Screen and Speak Selection, as well as the ability to speak keyboard letters and predictive typing suggestions to support multimodal learning. There's a switch control that now lets you control iOS, macOS, and tvOS all from the same iPhone or iPad, so you don't need to configure switches for the secondary device. And software TTY allows you to place and receive TTY calls without the need for traditional hardware and teletype writer accessories. So those are some of the key changes in accessibility with iOS 10. Next one is Apple made a big deal about back at WWDC, and what it seemed to be what Apple thought was the biggest changes for iOS 10, and that's in messages. And some of those changes, expressive messaging, such as bubble effects that lets you send messages loudly, gently, slam, or with invisible ink. There's full screen effects to celebrate special moments like confetti and things like that, balloons. There's tap back for quick replies to messages, links, and photos. There's handwritten messages that animate like ink on paper. Also, digital touch that lets you send sketches, taps, and heartbeats. Tap to replace can emojify your text with just a tap. Rich links show a preview of web pages you share. In the iMessages app, there's new App Store for iMessages. Use the power of apps and messages to share and collaborate with friends. Download stickers to send and place on text bubbles and photos. And there's already other apps out there that you can buy in that App Store for iMessages. One I saw was like Blur, which when you send a photo, it'll blur it for the other person, then they can unlock it. So that's just an example. And another item I want to go over a section is Siri. Siri now works with the following types of apps: messaging apps to send, search, and read back text messages, VoIP apps to place phone calls, photo apps to search for images and photos, ride services apps to book rides. There's payment apps to make personal payments, again using Siri, fitness apps to start, stop, and pause workouts, CarPlay automaker apps to adjust climate, radio, seat, and personal settings. So those are 3 categories that are updated in iOS 10 and what some of those updates are. Next time, I'm going to go over maps, photos, and a few other items. The very first accessory I ordered for my jet black iPhone 7 Plus, even before I ordered the iPhone 7 Plus itself, were the Utomic Edge bumpers. These are the ones formerly called Bumpies that I have on my iPhone 6 Plus. I ordered the black Edge bumpers, and yes, I ordered this time. I did not even try to get them free. I did not want to wait. I was hoping at the time I would have the 7 Plus this week and not in October. Best laid plans of mice and men. So when the Edge bumpers came in, they've kind of been mocking me. Yes, they're already here. So I have my Utomic Edge bumpers, and they're sitting here on the desk next to me going, ha ha, where's your iPhone, Rob? That said, the iPhone 7 Plus does come. When it does come, the first thing I will do is put the Edge bumpers on it. So I already have my case ready for it. And that's the Edge bumpers. And I hear the jet black is slippery as all get up. So yes, having those bumpers for the 7 Plus will really help save the day. And they do have them for the 7 as well. I did send an email to Utomic to confirm the bumpers for the 6 Plus and 6S Plus, that's what you have to order, would work for the 7 Plus, and they did confirm they will. They also offered up an affiliate link. So if you go to todayinios.com/Utomic, UTOMIC, that will help out the show. They are $35 for the bumpers. And as I've said on the show before, you are paying for what you're not getting. And that is a big, bulky case. I also heard from some 6S users that they love the camera on the 7 Plus, but don't want to go to the larger 5.5-inch size and really are torn about what to do. Well, if you're someone with a life-proof case or other waterproof case on your 6 or 6S, or even that battery case, you don't need waterproofing anymore, and you get the extra battery life. You just need the drop protection. And with the bumpers, they provide that. And really, the size difference between the 7 Plus with the bumpers versus the 6S with the big old case for waterproofing, well, it's minimal. And actually, it's going to feel smaller, definitely thinner. If you are on the fence about upgrading to the 7 Plus for the great new camera, but the size is what's holding you back, look at the Utomic Edge bumpers as a way of getting the best of both worlds. I have a feeling a lot of people will be getting these bumpers. Plus, if you get the jet black, you want people to see it, not cover it up, right? And that's what the bumpers allow you to do, is really show it off. And given how slippery it is, according to those that have touched it at the Apple event, you definitely need some protection. Again, go to todayinios.com/Utomic if you plan on getting those bumpers. Link in the show notes, of course. Rock, paper, scissors.
Where I'm from, we settle our differences the old-fashioned way, quantum random number generation.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock eating, fire breathing, metal melting dragon. I win.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, no wait, scissors. Oh, you win.
Thanks again to Boll & Branch for sponsoring this episode. Folks, go right now to bollandbranch.com and use promo code TII to get $50 off the nicest sheets and cotton products you've ever owned with free shipping to boot. And before we go today, I want to remind you to send in your feedback to the show, 206-666-6364. That's 206-MOON-DOG. Or record your feedback and email it to the show at todayinios@gmail.com. Feedback can be a question or comment for something someone said on this episode, or it can be a question or rant about something else. As long as it's iOS related, an app, a product, good or bad, doesn't really matter. It is all welcomed. I am always looking for new artwork to feature on the show that you've created on an iOS device. Just put some TII branding on it and send it in. And we are always looking for more music created on an iOS device to play on the show. It's your show, and your feedback is greatly desired. Don't forget also to check out our moderated Google Plus community by going to todayinios.com/community. And finally, check out the newly updated TII app, which is free to you. Search for TII in the iTunes App Store. It is the best way to consume the show and to get push notifications each time a new episode of TII is released, or if there's some sort of news. It is fully voiceover friendly, of course. Please go right now and download the TII app. And that, folks, is going to do it for us today. Until the next time, I'm your host, Rob, reminding you to own different. This show is hosted on Libsyn.com and part of the Wizard Media Network. If you are looking for hosting, go to Libsyn.com. That's Libsyn.com for hosting for your podcast and for creation of your own smartphone app. The Today in iOS podcast can also be found on the free Stitcher radio app. Just search for TII. Regards, Rick in Valdosta. Regards, Rick from Valdosta. Get $50 off your first shed of sheets. I'm okay that with that. I like stereo sound and was hoping for a blue color despite the another new iPhone size. Regards, Rick from Valdes. Regards, Rick from Valdosetta. That's not right. Okay, wait, here.
Valdosta. Valdosta.
Thanks, Siri.